Welcome in, everybody, to another week of UFL Weekly. We are 2 weeks technically away from playoff action. I say technically because we kind of get a playoff preview this week, but we'll talk about that later. We are UFL Weekly, here to discuss all things UFL Weekly. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by this Mr. Beautiful, Mr. Fantastic, Zach Cole. Zach, how are you this week, man?
I'm good. I just need to say I really appreciate the consistency of your introductions every week. I think you're the one person that on a regular basis calls me beautiful and fantastic. So I need to say thank you for that. But outside of that, I'm doing well. I'm excited. I feel like I say it every week, but fired up to talk more UFL football.
Always fired up, and I'm always here to call you beautiful and fantastic when
Well,
nobody
thank
else
you.
is. Before we get into a little bit of game recaps here and game previews, we had some UFL news that today. They might have announced it previously and I missed it, but today they announced the return of what we are calling the Tank Bowl. However, this is a rule similar to the USFL that they ran into year one a few years ago, um, where we kind of run into a spectacular situation here in the final week of the regular season where the bottom two teams are facing off against each other. And what that means is we've got two 1-8 teams facing off week 10, the Memphis Showboats and the Houston Roughnecks. And whoever wins this game will have the first overall pick in the UFL draft this offseason and at each round afterwards. So it's not like, oh, you get the first pick and then we're going based on record. Whoever wins this gets first pick overall in round one, round two, and I think it's four, but I don't know. I don't think they announced details on the draft,
hmm
but they get
hmm
first pick in each round. So it's not first or the worst record in the UFL because we've run into this final game of the year between the two worst records of the league. We get an incredible tank bowl situation where the winner they're playing for this first overall pick, and I think loser still gets second. However, an interesting scenario that the scheduling gods kind of gifted upon us and the UFL to kind of be like, all right, we may have the worst two teams facing off final week. However, stakes are at play here for everybody, and there would have been regardless. These players are playing for themselves and for tape, but coaching staff and team wise, playing for first overall, which is, I love it. That's a great way to play it. That's a great way to put some emphasis on the final week. That, especially in a week where I'm rambling, and I apologize. Especially in a week where we already have the playoffs decided, we're actually just seeing repeats. We're seeing these teams play again, or we're going to see these teams play again next week, the playoff teams. But we've got a final game of the week this week is a matchup for first overall.
I don't think the schedule makers, the powers that be in the UFL, could have designed it any more perfectly where we have the four playoff teams playing each other, we have the two middle tier teams playing each other, and then we have the two bottom tier teams playing each other. It just like it lined up so beautifully, so perfectly that we do get this tank bowl in week 10 here. Which I think the interesting point is typically you see teams fighting to lose, to blow those games, but in this scenario, they announced where we're going to see the team that wins is actually going to get the first pick, which I think is the right way to do it. I mean, you want competitive games, you want to see players playing. It kind of aligns with all those things we talked about in the last week and the week prior, I think, Kyle, where these guys deserve every opportunity that they're getting in the spring football league. So for this to be a game that they need to win in order to get that first pick, I just like the way that the league went about that and that they made that the case instead of losing to get the first pick.
I think it also makes it a little bit fun. You get
hmm
these players who may or may not be on the team again next year, but are just like, Sure, we got something to play for here. It makes it a little bit more interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the next 2 points here I have in just news notes. We talked about this already. Playoffs are set. We actually see the two playoff matchups we'll see in the
Hmm.
USFL and XFL championship week. We're seeing this week. USFL is Panthers versus Stallions, and XFL is Brahmas Battlehawks. We see that this week. The USFL conference, however, their home field advantage is already decided. The Stallions locked that up, so they're just playing to play. Brahmas and Battlehawks, however, they're playing for home field advantage. The way the week kind of shook up this week with wins and losses, the Brahmas and Battlehawks are fighting for home field advantage. I think this week they're in St. Louis, which is probably the home field advantage. But
Hmm.
Brahmas are playing. I think they credited this past week's win to home field advantage. So we're gonna it's gonna be an interesting game. I think these two teams are actually fighting for something, and it's gonna be an interesting one that we're just gonna see again in the next week, which is interesting, but I'm oddly excited for it.
Yeah, and that little caveat where we're fighting for home field advantage in this matchup is really a big deal, I think, because it makes both weeks relevant. Where we talked about it a little bit before, the cards fell in the order where this game does matter, but there was a world where it wouldn't have mattered. This game could have just been for funsies, and then next week they played for the actual to move on to the UFL championship. But it's nice that the way that the cards fell, the way that the results happened last week, we ended up seeing this game matter as well as next week's game matter between these two teams. And on the other side, the Panthers and the Stallions play. And I think a little interesting tidbit on this one that we'll talk about a little bit further down the road is that this is actually the biggest spread of the week. The Vegas bookmakers think that this is actually going to be the most lopsided affair in the Stallions' favor. Does that indicate that the Panthers might be resting guys? They might be, I don't know. They're just that much of an inferior team compared to the Stallions. I don't know what Vegas is seeing, but that's kind of an interesting underlying storyline where we might see that again next week, or the line might be completely changed. It's just kind of something to keep an eye on in this matchup that we will then see a rematch of next week.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into recapping week 9, we have our MVP of the week, our UFL Weekly MVP of the week. This week it goes to Michigan Panthers technically backup, but quarterback Bryce Perkins. Perkins came in for the second half of the game, threw for 121 yards and a touchdown, but ran for 76 and 2 touchdowns. So for that, he is our MVP of the week for a
Yep.
second half performance that was better or equivalent to almost every other quarterback. So hats off to Perkins. You are our MVP of the week. With our honorable mentions, Justin Hall here reeling in 6 catches, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And our other honorable mention, been up here a few other times, Luis Perez, 259 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, in a high scoring affair for his team. But Justin Hall, Luis Perez are backups or our honorable mentions, but Bryce Perkins, our second half hero, MVP of the week.
It really feels like we ought to give Luis Perez like the gold you tried star, like he keeps coming in second. He's so close to winning the our MVP of the week, but he can't get there. So I think that he obviously put on a great game, managed to pick up another win for a struggling Renegades team. But Perkins, Kyle, we just got a thing for rushing quarterbacks
Hard
here,
not
and
to.
that just kind of this pick of the week nailed, or this MVP of the week nailed that point home. I mean, what a game for him coming in to the second half, a la Adrian Martinez of week 2, week 3. Early on in the season when we were like, who is this dude? So I don't know. Maybe with Perkins, we found a little something, a hidden a hidden gem or something along those lines. I don't know, but really cool to see him come in for the Panthers and take this game over and get them a win.
Yeah, I mean, we have I mean, stepping in for the Panthers too, a playoff-bound Michigan Panthers,
Yeah.
a team
Mm-hmm.
that is technically seeking their starting quarterback for the playoffs,
Yep.
with no EJ Perry. I mean, they're looking for their starting guy, and they may have found him, but I
Mm-hmm.
think they're still figuring that out. I don't think they're ready to nail that in based on a second half performance. But I mean, that's what they have this next week for, which is really interesting. I keep saying
It
it's
is.
interesting. It is.
Yep.
It's like a whole testing ground for all of these teams. Um, love it. Bonkers way that it worked out, but cool.
Script writers are on fire with this one.
They sure were. If only it came down to this week, it'd be a little interesting, but
Yeah.
it's still cool. Uh, Getting into the game recaps. First game of the week, we saw the St. Louis Battlehawks just not be able to handle business against the Arlington Renegades. Renegades won 36-22. Again, we talked about Luis Perez. Perez had one of those games that he has once a month where it's just lights out dominant. Still threw again 259, three passing touchdowns. Kind of led the way for this Arlington's win number 2 on the year. Kind of like locked in the 1-8 matchup between the Roughnecks and the Showboats for the loser bowl, pretty much. But Renegades came away with win number 2 on the year. It's just again one of those Luis Perez figured things out, where I keep seeing that this Renegades offense is like so below like the radar great. They've just been like wheeling and dealing all year, and then like just these 2 weeks they've been like, oh yeah, wait, we figured this out, we know how to win, and then it doesn't work out the other weeks. And notably the Battlehawks without AJ McCarron. I think I saw that he's looking good for week 10, but they may rest him because they can. Really comes down to how hard they want that home field advantage, or how much
Mm-hmm.
faith they have in Manny Wilkins, who unfortunately threw 3 interceptions this week. But looking good for the Renegades moving forward for the final week. They know how to score points when they need to, but Battlehawks hoping to figure some things out moving forward.
Yeah, if there was a redraft every year for XFL/UFL players, I think Luis Perez might be like the 101. I mean, he really knows how to turn it on in the second half of the season, and kind of like you alluded to, Kyle, if this team could have just figured it out like 2-3 weeks earlier, and maybe they ended up with maybe just 4 wins. Like, it didn't need to be a lot, but just enough to kind of sprinkle a little bit of doubt in everyone's minds, and then maybe that was stealing a win from the Battlehawks or stealing a win from even the Brahmas in what does this look like? Week they played them 2 weeks ago in week 7. That is, this could be a completely different conversation that we're having. So, in short, just to kind of go back, Luis Perez is clearly a very good quarterback, and you hit the nail on the head. This is a team that's flying under the radar. Their offense is very good. They just can't really seem to close out those close games, which is not something you'd expect from a team that's a former champion. You know, typically those former champions have that X factor of what it takes to finish off games, but with the expansion draft, the free agent pool, everything, this could be a team that, you know, isn't exactly the same as it was a year ago, and they have a lot of young guys. They have guys that are trying to figure it out. So I think moving forward, hopefully we see the UFL again in 2025. I think it's a safe bet, but I think this Renegades team is going to be a completely different look the next time around, and I think are going to be one of the playoff contenders that we'll be talking about this time next year.
Yeah, the Renegades are one of those teams that could flip flop every year between bottom
Mm-hmm.
of the pack to league winner kind of thing.
Yep.
Also, want to shout out Manny Wilkins, 2 rushing touchdowns. I mentioned his passing stats, but ran for 2 touchdowns as well. And also, before we move on to the next game, we can't skip over this game without mentioning the Battlehawks scoring a singular point in the fourth quarter. 1 point. Looking right at the box score, there's 1 point scored by the Battlehawks in the fourth quarter, which tells me two things: they weren't able to keep this game close, and two, they their defense is able to do a pick one. For those who don't know, they scored the 1 point on an extra point attempt, intercepted it and ran it back 99 yards. Just picked it off at the goal line, ran it back. It's funny watching like the highlight of it, and the guy very clearly is just, like, he gets like 10 yards out from the other end, like, to score, and he's just like, I can do this, right? Like, he's making sure he's just like, this is happening. And then I think he saw like 2 Renegades players charging after him. He's like, oh yeah, wait, I can do this.
That was definitely one of like the oddities of football that'll be in all those YouTube compilations that you see for years and years to come. It was just weird. A singular point in the box score is weird.
It's gonna show up right next to the he knew the rules highlight reel.
Yeah, right.
YouTube
Yeah,
video that shows up everywhere. Tavon Austin highlights. Then
Yep.
You've got wackiest things to happen in pro football.
legendary YouTube videos. Speaking of legendary, that is what the Stallions could have been with an undefeated season, but that came to an end this week. In our second game of the week, the Brahmas, this sneaky playoff team here, knocked off the Birmingham Stallions 18-9. That was actually, believe it or not, the end of a 15-game win streak dating back to USFL days for the Stallions. The Brahmas, judging by the box score, 18-9, they scratched and clawed their way to this win. Shout out punter. We always shout out kickers. Shout out punter Brad
kickers.
Wing. Had a 64-yard punt, which Wade Phillips shouted him out on that, saying that was what sealed the deal. I mean, anytime you punt the ball 64 yards, that's a complete change of field position. So that was huge. They did their due diligence in shutting down Adrian Martinez. Again, Wade Phillips, a defensive guy. Clearly, he did his homework on Martinez and was able to slow him down in this game and hold them to only 9 points. Not to take away from the win at all. We don't know what Birmingham might have dialed back or anything like that behind the scenes, but still, I mean, kudos to the Brahmas for putting together a game plan and for executing it and for coming out with an 18-9 grueling victory in this one.
Yeah, we saw the legendary John Shea Kirkland with another classic AJ Smith drawn up touchdown pass from the wide receiver. I always love seeing those. AJ Smith, please dial that up twice a game. I need more of that, especially coming from John Shea. Love that man. We unfortunately saw Cody Latimer go down with a concussion. I think I saw a note that he's out for the season. So.
Oh, wow.
Rest up, Latimer. I think I have that right.
Mm-hmm.
It's Latimer. Yeah, he was down, and then they scored the touchdown. But yeah, Wade Phillips is a talker in his post-game press conference. Really credited the home crowd, and I think that's going to go a long way for them wanting to fight for this final game, for that home field advantage in the playoffs. Yeah, we saw Chase Garbers come back. Happy to see that.
Big time.
He had, we talk about this every time we mention the guy. He had a hot start to the season, got hurt, came back, and then now I think they were going to ease him back in, but kind of were forced to start him this week or play him a little bit this week with Dormady going down. But Garber stepped in, played just fine. And then we mentioned last week, Jay Sternberger. I think, head coach said that Sternberger is going to be the guy out there every game. He's just like, I can't take him off the field. And sure enough, he led the team in receiving. 110 receiving yards on 7 catches and a touchdown. Beautiful.
We love a good tight end tight end overachiever in this league. So shout out Jay Sternberger. That's a hell of a stat line for a tight end.
Yeah, for real. Sternberger is a spring football staple nowadays. He has been the past few years, but the, he's just he's loving it, and I'm loving seeing him loving it. All right, third game this week, we saw the Michigan Panthers just squeak past the Houston Roughnecks in a 26-22 victory. The Panthers went into the fourth quarter kind of hoping for a lot, and they got a lot. They went into the fourth quarter down. I can't do math this quick. 12-22. Down 10 going into the fourth, and they were able to score 14 after allowing the Roughnecks to score 19 in the third. I'm just throwing numbers at you all right now. But this is, again, kind of where Bryce Perkins kind of came in, played some hot flash football here in the second half. Kind of played in the second half and kind of mentioned afterwards that this was kind of a trial run for which QB to run with in the playoffs. I think we're kind of getting a sneak preview as to who that might be, getting some answers here. And I think we're going to see a lot more solutions or answers to our questions as to who will be starting in the playoffs this coming week as we get our playoff preview there.
It was very nice to see Michigan kind of squeak this one out. I do think that they are an above average team, obviously locked into the playoffs here. In my mind, I've kind of been keeping like this mental power rank of the four playoff teams, just for future reference. And I think this solidified Michigan as number 2 in my mind. I think that the 2 USFL teams are my 2 favorites in the playoffs, and then followed by the 2 XFL teams. That's just where my mind is, and I don't know, squeaking this one out 26-22 against a not great Roughnecks team, admittedly. It's still just a good win for these guys. So you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we saw Perkins, our MVP of the week, did a great job coming in and sealing this one up for the gang and everything. I don't have too much more to add to the game. I would say that this was a little bit of an uneventful game. It's 26-22, 48 points is a ton of points, but I wouldn't say anything super flashy happened in the game outside of us. I'm trying to pronounce it for COC Mariner, racking up 8 catches for 95 yards. Didn't find the end zone, but still, you know what? That's a decent game for a receiver in the Panthers offense. Nonetheless, we know that they love to run the ball, so shout out there.
Yeah, and something else to note here. We knew going into the game that this would kind of be a rest / half play a little bit for the Panthers. Head coach kind of talked about being like, I want to rest these guys, but I don't want to not play them. So I think we went into this game kind of being like, all right, what's this going to look like? I think the running back room was kind of hit with injuries, so they were forced to start their number 1 guy for most of the game, Matt Colburn. But Nate McCrary saw some play there. But I think something to highlight for why this game may have been so close between a playoff game and a 1-8 team may have been the resting kind of bit of the Panthers. Not to say that the Roughnecks couldn't play, but just kind of saying like, whoa, 1-8 versus playoff team, why is it so close? I want to explain that. I think the Panthers went into this being like, all right, let's not get ourselves hurt out here. But either way, Roughnecks put up a fight, but the Panthers were like, no, we still want to win this one.
Well, the last game of the weekend here was a game that wasn't necessarily being played for anything. Between at the time a 3-5. Am I right on that? A 3-5 Defenders team and a 1-7 Showboats
Yes.
team. I think that's correct, right?
Stumbled your way through
Um,
that, but yes.
yeah, I was doing the mental math, subtracting, adding. Yeah, no. The defenders obviously had the better record in this game, were the expected to win, and they did come out with the victory, 36-21 over the Memphis Showboats. DC really kind of just had a stranglehold on this game, top to bottom. They were up 30-7 going into the fourth, so another game we might have seen some guys kind of come out, and hence the comeback a little bit for the Showboats. Teamu decided to show up this week. He had a hell of a game with 237 passing and three total touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. But overall, just really kind of domination from the defenders from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, where obviously they did let the Showboats back in a little bit, almost just to kind of make it a little bit more of a respectable score, if nothing else. So. Kind of to be expected, I would say, getting a victory from the 3-5 team, moving to 4-5 now in the season, and the Showboats still with that one lonely win.
Yeah, this Showboats defense is. I
Bad.
have it here that they continue to be MIA. Um, they have a hard time stopping anything and everything.
Yeah.
They just continue to allow the big plays to take place, and it's hurting them, as we can tell by their record and their continued losses. Um,
Yeah.
I I have a hard time not picturing Justin Hall score 2 70-yard touchdowns on the Showboats this coming week, but that's for it's for next week. Um, yeah, the Showboats team, they're doing all right, but the defenders took advantage of that. Kind of went in, yeah, mentioned going into the fourth, just up 30-7, being like, all right, yeah, no, we got this. Man, what a game!
Kyle, just to put some context to the defense being MIA, I just want to read you the last few weeks. They gave up 36 to DC this week. They gave up 24 to Michigan. That's a little more respectable. 47 to Arlington, 39 to the Stallions, 35 to Michigan, 32 to the Battlehawks, 33 to the Stallion. Like, just they've been on, I would say, a 7-week run here where they are just getting obliterated on the defensive side of the ball, which does not bode well to winning games. So it stinks. They're clearly not a very good team this year. But you know what? You gotta build from somewhere. So clearly they know what the issue is. Let's hope they attack it and pinpoint it this offseason, and let's get it fixed.
Yeah, let's see a lot more Vinny Papal and Darius Victor.
Yeah,
And
right? Yeah.
throw to David Davis more. Missed him this week, but I guess DC was able
Dawood's
to
the
just
man.
shut him down.
Dawood's the man.
All right, that was week 9. Let's look into week 10. We are going to do our weekly picks. Basically, just running through the DraftKings Sportsbook lines. This is not betting advice. These are not our betting picks or telling you to make these bets. This is us just saying all right, what's Vegas got this at? What do we think is going to actually happen? Zach and I just make our game picks, kind of give our feedback as to how we each personally see these games going. Considering we've got a loser bowl wrapping up the week there at the end there, and we have both on Saturday, 2 playoff preview games coming up at us this week. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Week 10, kicking us off Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have the Michigan Panthers versus Birmingham Stallions, a little USFL Conference Championship preview, where I will say we may get a Matt Corral game. I think Birmingham's kind of been all right, Corral's kind of earned a start here. I think Skip Holtz just loves Corral and is trying to play him wherever he can, but he's like, Martinez is killing it. I can't do this. Hard situation to be in when you've got 2 great spring football quarterbacks at your fingertips, but you just happen to have the best one. Sorry. Uh, so yeah, Michigan Panthers actively resting their guys, where Birmingham's just seems to be going for it. Saturday at noon or at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have a dash there, look like a 12. Current lines we mentioned earlier. Biggest line favorite of the game of the week. Stallions are a -8 spread favorite. Total is set at 43.5. Over under. Zach, what you got here?
I think this is one of the games I feel more confident about on the week. I'm going to take Michigan +8. I feel like that's really high, especially for a team that's been rambling off wins recently, and a team, Birmingham team, that's coming off a loss that they only put up 9 points in. So I think I like Michigan +8, even if they lose toward 30-24. That still covers. That feels pretty good to me. So give me the touchdown difference, touchdown and a 2 pointer there. And as for the over under, I think I'm going to go over in this game. I like this to be a 20 something to 20 something game, and in my opinion, that would push the over, which is currently set at 43.5. So give me the over. Give me Michigan +8, and give me the over.
I am joining you on the Michigan +8. I think this is going to be two teams that may just be. I don't want to say they're going to ease their way through this matchup. I think a lot of these players are still playing for something. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, playing for a notch in the win column, but they're playing for themselves. They're playing to add to their team. They're playing to potentially make the leap to the NFL. They've got a lot to show off, and they're going to want to show off. So it's going to be a good game, but I think it's going to be a closer one. +8 is a lot. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I picture Michigan kind of keeping this close. I picture both teams kind of being like, all right, play a game. +8, and I'm going to join you again on the over. I'm with you. These are both offenses that can score, and I can picture both defenses kind of lightening up a little bit this week potentially, just allowing for again two scores in the 20s makes this over hit, and that's exactly where I kind of see this winding up this
Yeah.
week.
And for our other playoff preview game, the 4 o'clock game, we got double playoff preview on Saturday here. So the 4 o'clock game, the Brahmas, as you mentioned, go up to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks in a matchup that we will see again in week 11, if you will, the first round of the playoffs. The Brahmas currently stand as 2.5 point underdogs to the St. Louis Battlehawks. So you see there the home team is 2.5 points favorite, and the over under is currently set at 42.5. What do you got, Kyle?
Give me San Antonio. Give me the Brahmas +2.5. Um, Quite honestly, I think they win it. I think they're on a little bit of a hotter streak here, feeling good about themselves. Where St. Louis may want to try to come back from this past week's loss, but I feel like either McCarron. Well, I have a strong feeling McCarron's not going to start, although he very well may. That's just a gut feeling. That's not. I think signs point to yes, but I think they'll rest him. Um, and I think that kind of slows down the Battlehawks scoring potential, where I picture the San Antonio defense kind of really stepping up to the plate, and the Battlehawks have a really good defense too. I think both
Mm-hmm.
of these defenses kind of come in healthy, playing well, or as healthy as they can, keeping this a little bit low scoring. I mean, we saw San Antonio keep Birmingham to 9 points, and they were playing their starters. So I think this is a low scoring affair. So San Antonio +2.5, under 42.5.
I am going to go based off the fact that I do think AJ McCarron is going to play in this game, and I do think he's going to start, and I think that they feel that this is a must-win game. Um, winning in St. Louis is hard enough. Doing it 2 weeks in a row is even more difficult. So I think they want home field advantage by all means. So I'm going to take the Battlehawks -2.5. Um, I'm struggling with this over under. Part of me says over, part of me says I'll take the over. I'll go different from you on both
Let's
here.
do it.
I just think, just kind of looking at the way that the league has been trending these last couple weeks, we're seeing more points be scored. I mean, I'm looking, the lowest scoring total was 30 in week 8. Obviously, the Stallions and the Brahmas game was very low scoring this past week, but I think that was a little fluky. We saw the other games all up around 50 points total ish. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'll take the over. If for no other reason than I think we're just starting to see these offenses get comfortable, and I just think points are going to be scored.
Love it. Next game we've got Sunday at noon Eastern. We have two teams just playing for the love of football. We have the Arlington Renegades facing off against the DC Defenders in DC. A little home finale in DC. Currently, the line is set in DC's favor at -3.5. Over under set at 46.5. Highest on the week. Over under. Zach, what you got?
I am going to put all of my chips on week 7 through 10 MVP Luis Perez. Give me Arlington +3. I really, really like that. I know that they are not going to have the home field advantage here, but this team, something seems to have clicked with them, and things are going right. So I really like Arlington in this one to win outright, even though they're the underdogs here according to the spread. And as for the over/under, it is set as the highest of the week, which does concern me a little bit. 46.5. That's a pretty good margin. So I think I'm going to go ahead and hedge and take the under on this one. I don't know. Something's telling me that one of these, it could end up being Arlington. One of these two offenses just isn't going to show up, and we might see a little bit of a lower scoring affair on one side or the other, which is just why that 46 margins or that 46 mark scares me. So I'm going to go ahead and say under on that one, under 46.5. But I love the Arlington Renegades to win outright.
Oh, this is a tough one.
This is a tough one.
I'm Arlington's putting it together. I'm gonna join you, Arlington +3. I do think I do think that Arlington can come out of here with the win or keep it close. I'm gonna mention this a few times in this short spiel here. Arlington lost to DC in week 3 by a point, and Arlington is the king of 5-point games and like keeping these games close.
Yeah.
So whether Arlington's going to win or they're going to lose by 2 points, that's kind of what I'm banking on.
1 to 5 points, right? So we're
One
somewhere
to,
in
one to
that
5.
margin.
If this line were set at 5, I'd throw everything at it.
Bet the house.
Yeah, all of it. But +3, I'm safe with +3. But I think I'm with you. I think Arlington may squeak out a win here. But I'm going to go with the over. I'm actually pretty confident in that over. Arlington has been and will continue to be scoring. This offense is on a hot streak. 36, 20, 47, 27 points. Oh, I said 20. They scored 15 that week. They're rolling. They're scoring. This offense can score, and I think the DC defense is going to allow them to score. And speaking of DC, I think DC is going to score. They just had 36 this past week, their best of the season. And then prior to that, 21. They had 9 in week 7 to Michigan. But I think DC can score, and I think these two teams are going to score. I think with Arlington, their defense not really being great per se, I think they're going to give up points. I think these defenses are going to be exploited to the max this week. And I think we're going to see a 40-point game, a 40 to 30-point game, like a 42 to 37.
70 total points.
Bring it. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if one of these teams covers this over under themselves. Give me a 50 burger from one of these guys.
That would be insane. That
I
would
doubt
be
it,
insane.
but I confident in the over here.
All right, let's move on to our last game of the week. We got the 7 o'clock, the Tank Bowl, as we have so affectionately called it. We have the Houston Roughnecks at the Memphis Showboats. Houston is the 2-point favorite right now, so Houston is -2, and the over/under is at 44.5 points. Kyle, what are you feeling in our final game of the weekend?
Houston's winning this. Give me Houston -2. I feel pretty good about that one. Ooh, over under. It's not a bad one. You know what? I want the points. Give me the over. Give me over 44.5. I don't know. Maybe Houston puts up 40 themselves on this Showboats defense. Yeah, give me the points. So, Houston -2, over 44.
I am with you on both of those picks. I think Memphis is bad, and I think that the over under currently being set at 44.5. You know how many times they haven't hit that in the last 7 weeks? One time. And that was when they played a very good Michigan Panthers defense, and that came in at 42 total points. So like it wasn't like it was crazy far off. But I mean, this past week it was 57 points. A couple of weeks ago it was 60. I'm sorry, it was 70. A week before that, just points galore. So yeah, I feel confident. I'm riding with you on both. I would even take a couple extra points in the Roughnecks' favor if they were being offered. To be completely honest.
Yeah, give me the Justin Hall 2 touchdown prop.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be yeah. Let's see here. David Davis is gonna score. COC Mariner might see himself find his way into the end zone. Darius Victor, that's 3 on Memphis side already, and then you've got let's see here. Who yeah, Mark Thompson's gonna score 1. Justin Hall's gonna score 2. And who knows? Nolan Henderson's gonna run one in himself.
Yeah, it's
Points. And Matthew Colburn.
points.
I looked at the Panthers. Matthew Colburn's on the Panthers. Ignore I said Matthew Colburn. I'm just looking at the Roughnecks box score from the past game, and his name popped out. He's a Panther. He's probably resting this week anyways. TJ Pledger's gonna score.
Kyle, I think we might need to talk to Vegas and maybe see if we can start getting some like anytime touchdown scorer props. You know, maybe we can be the guys to start setting those lines. What do you think?
Yeah, we got it. It's going to be -250 for any offensive player in this game. It's going to be -200 for let's see. Ty Scott on DC is going to be -200. -180 for Teamo's going to run one himself. He's going to be -110. Again, odds-on favorite for all of these guys to score.
Yeah, and if I'm also running a special, you know, you see those ones on the front page of DraftKings or FanDuel. It's for the St. Louis Battlehawks to score 1 point again in a singular quarter. The odds are plus 7,500. So throw a dollar on that one. Win what, $75?
If they pull that off, I mean, odds are impossible. But if that happens again, I'll become a Battlehawks.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
The Battlehawks extra point defense specifically.
Battlehawks 1 point challenge.
Wow, what a time! I can't believe they scored 1 in a quarter. Like it'd be easy to be hidden in a box score if they had like scored a touchdown, because then it'd be like 9.
But just that singular one
Just
sitting
the
in the
one.
fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter, 15 points in the second, 6 in the third, and then 1 in the fourth.
Wow.
Bonkers! I love it.
That's good stuff.
Give me
That's
more
good
of that.
stuff.
Although I kind of wish, I don't even know if I should check. I have it right here. All right. I'm gonna stop. What were they going for? Oh, it was a 1 point attempt. Dang it! I was hoping they were going for 3, and you pick sixed it, and it was
With
3.
that, I was just say that would have counted as 3, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the rules for that. I should have before I kind of made that assumption.
We'll get a clarification for next week.
Yeah, I'll talk to the head officials.
We'll call the Rock.
Hello, Dwayne. I need to know if this were instead for a 3-point score. I think it would have been because they were going for 1. That's why it was 1 point.
You may have been perusing the box scores this weekend and seen that there was a singular point scored in the fourth quarter of the.
I'll clarify why that was 1 if you help me clarify a rule 2. If they were going for 3, he'd have to make a few calls himself. Be like, wait a minute.
He would, yeah, for
That's
sure.
a great point. All right, we're getting too far into this 1 point. I just feel like that's just incredible. You don't see that.
It is.
You won't see
It
that.
absolutely is.
Actually, I don't think you'll see that because I think if it happens in the NFL, I think it's a 2-point.
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
one of a kind.
One of a kind.
Literally.
Wow. Well, yeah. All right. I could
Let's wrap this up.
I could express my excitement about a singular point in a Battlehawks game for hours. Before I do, let's wrap this up. For you at home, or in your car, or at work, thank you for tuning in. Whether you're listening to us or watching us, we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us this week in the season. Next week we will have a playoff preview. And who knows, maybe we'll crown our UFL MVP next week. Maybe we'll push that back for the week after. Maybe we'll do a championship and MVP chat. We'll figure it out. But for now, we are UFL Weekly, and that was Week 8 recap. No, not Week 8. I'm looking at Week 8. It was a Week 9 recap, Week 10 preview. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week.
See ya.